Hi everybody, today we're talking about property versus Bitcoin. Stand by. Well, James, today we're talking about the unbelievable rise in Bitcoin, and a lot of people are thinking, is it a bubble? Should they get into it? Should they get out of it? Maybe they should look at it as an investment instead of property.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the most talked about investment kind of at the moment. Every person I talk to seems to be talking about Bitcoin
Yeah.
in terms of investment. Obviously, it's a bit of a crazy one, really.
Yeah.
I think everyone's kind of got a few question marks about it. You've got a friend who said maybe put a bit in it, but if you're going to put some money in it, be ready to lose it in
Yeah.
a second, basically.
I think that's right, and that's the difference, isn't it? Is that the thing about Bitcoin is we think that it could be a good investment, but we're not going to recommend you go out and buy it because we also think that it's one of those things that you could make a lot of money out of, but actually you could lose all your money as well. And I think that's really important to know, and that is the distinct and clear difference between it and the property market. If you look at the property market, we've got history, and most importantly, we've got a tangible asset, right, James?
Yeah, I suppose that's the main difference here. When you're looking at Bitcoin, it can go to literally nothing or
That's right. And what is it?
Seconds.
What is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
If I lose my money in it, where's the asset? What can I do with it?
Yeah.
It's invisible. There's nothing actually there, and so it's just really a very strange thing. And yeah, it could make you rich, couldn't it? But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be betting my life savings on it if I were you. Time will tell whether that's right or wrong. But the main thing to say about Bitcoin is amazing. We're watching it with interest, I must say, and we like it. But there's a chance that it could be Tulip Mania or South Sea Bubble Mark II. In other words, lots of people get in. The excitement goes to such a degree that it can start to impact on other markets as well, world markets, because there are so many futures trades going on with it and that kind of thing, different derivatives.
Yeah,
It's
I think
amazing.
more and more people are starting to adopt it now, and we're seeing kind of a market kind of open up, and people are actually saying, basically committing to it for the future, and saying that they actually believe that this is going to. I mean, in terms of it in comparison to property, it's so new that I don't think anyone knows where it's headed. But people at the moment seem to be thinking that it is going to be a part of kind of today's society.
I think that's quite possible. I mean, we've already seen that there are buildings in Saudi that are accepting Bitcoin as a payment method, which seems
cars as well.
It's
Cars
just
as well
incredible.
now.
And also, I've known of some big company developers who are working on contracts for larger companies that insist on payment by Bitcoin, believe it or not. We've read about and heard about most recently. And that's a surprise as well. And there's one guy who invested in Bitcoin because his developers wanted to be paid in Bitcoin and became a millionaire in the process of doing that, in buying those Bitcoins, and the value of them jumped so significantly. So certainly, there is a chance that you could get very rich if you're prepared to bet your house on it. But personally, I wouldn't bet my house on it. I would say, property is a tangible asset. We can buy it, we can rent it out. If the market's not good for selling, that's not really a problem for us because we can rent out our properties. We can hold on to them. And over time, we know, history has told us that even when property goes down in value, over the medium term, it always wins, without question.
I think the main difference here is in the property market, we can be sure that there's always going to be demand for properties.
Yeah.
When you're looking at Bitcoin as investment, chances are I think everyone's kind of pointing towards the fact that it is useful and it is going to be a real currency.
Yeah.
But there is that question mark. Will it still be here in 15 years? And will the supply or the demand for it rather still be what it is or more than today?
Yeah.
Whereas in property, that there's going to be more people around, more people that want to rent, more people that want to buy in 10 or 15 years.
I think that's true, especially here in London, where we have such strong demand. And we're always saying that, the thing about property is we are a small island, but we're also an extremely popular island. And the place where all the work is these days is London. Sorry to say it, the rest of the country, but the majority of the work is here in London, and therefore people need to commute in. So commuter zones like us with a Zone 3 station close by will always be sought after by professionals looking to live and work in London, because the further out you go, that's great, but that you have to add that onto your working day then, that extra time. And of course, rail fares are getting no cheaper. They're always going up ahead of inflation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the saying, obviously, if buy land, they're not making any more of it.
Yeah,
so you can't really get the same. You can't really get the same thing from Bitcoin. Obviously, there's the thing is with Bitcoin, there are a lot of altcoins as well, as we discussed earlier, which in order to own alternative coins, which are just basically an alternative to what Bitcoin is, in order to buy those, you need to have Bitcoin in the first place. So there's so many kind of different branches coming off of Bitcoin now, that it's not just about a currency. There's so many different kind of opportunities.
Cryptocurrencies are just trendy, aren't they?
Exactly.
And whether they're going to be a long-term thing, only time will tell. So, you know, our advice would be, if you're looking at Bitcoin as an investment, then do so with money you can afford to lose. If you're looking at a property investment, then we would say that actually history tells us you never go wrong in the medium term. And if history is right, and we believe it will be, then if you've only got to look at the demographics. You know, the government say they're going to build more, and that's great. But you know what? When they build more, affordable housing comes along, and it's not affordable. So the first-time buyer market will still be there for the second-hand properties because they're more affordable than the affordable housing, believe it or not, because of the price of new builds and all the rest of it. And as for developers giving discounts to first-time buyers, well, if you look at the PwC report this year, we discussed this in an earlier video, actually the incentive Help to Buy, which gives 10% to the buyers, is more than swallowed by the extra premium those developers put on those properties. So, you know, what that tells me is that there's no solution to the housing crisis, and I don't say that with glee. You know, it'd be great if we could all have a home and afford to buy, but unfortunately in London, it's a problem. So if you are in a fortunate position where you can afford to invest, then actually in the medium term you'll never go wrong. And you can say, well, what about in 1988? And I would say to you, well, look forward a few years and you'll see that prices went way above that level. You know, 2007, 2009, same thing applies. You know, whenever you look back over history, property wins. Fact. Bitcoin, new. We don't know much about it other than the fact that it's been incredibly inexorable in its rise so far.
So if you had 100,000, what would your advice be to anyone with £100,000 about to invest now? What would you do with that 100,000?
Personally, and this is not advice for you guys because we don't give financial advice, of course, but personally, I would invest it in property, and perhaps a small proportion of it, if after I'd bought my property I had over, I might take that and risk it. Bearing in mind, I would say, right, I'll put that into something like Bitcoin, knowing that I run the risk of losing the whole lot.
Yeah.
So I would never invest more than I could afford to write off. And for you, that figure might be different. You know, for someone that's earning a very high salary, that figure might be £100,000. For someone on a low salary, that figure might be £1,000, or it might be nothing. So, you know, the key thing is, if you're going into something like Bitcoin, recognise it's a volatile, risky investment and you might lose a lot. But also it might make you a lot of money. You know, so that's where we stand on it. But the bottom line is the majority of anyone's money should be going into property. If you have the money to get into UK property, especially here in the outskirts of London, you're not going to go wrong. We can't guarantee the same of Bitcoin or altcoins. And so for us, it's a no-brainer. Put your money in a tangible asset that you can rent out if you can't sell, you can sell if you can't rent, and the market has proven time and time again is the best thing to get into for security in the long term.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you do like the video, give it a like or share. Thanks for watching today.
Yeah, many thanks. Take care.